Hi everyone, this is Curator from Angry Centaur Gaming, and today I'm stoked to bring you my review for Mortal Kombat X. You know, every single Christmas I wish for the same thing, a luchador wrestling tag team partner named Crimple Raisin who sings top 10 hits, and a fighting game that mimics the titles from yesteryear, that we remember the old heady days when Nintendo was worried we couldn't handle this much awesome, and replaced Mortal Kombat's blood with what could only be described as the Hulk's latest drug test results. You know, when you think about it, a console just simply isn't solidified in the new generation until a Mortal Kombat game slashes its way through the new hardware like fighters were price tags during Walmart Christmas shopping, just slashing, pulling, tearing, cutting, punching, magicking, menacing, voodooing, stinging, freezing, and lighting on fire the faces, old and new, of fighters from across the scary-ass globe. Listen, folks, fighters sometimes who are so badass they are already on fire even before the fight begins. With each iteration, something new is tried. At times, success is brandished like the intestines of a freshly smoked fighter, held high for gamers to discuss in excited tones and for the company to build upon in the future. So let's see if this Mortal Kombat, the aptly named Mortal Kombat X, is an apt successor, able to carry the burning spine of an enemy aloft like a torch to light the way for future titles. Or is it nothing more than Mortal Kombat Mini-Me, a copy devoid of anything but shallow imitations, lack of spirit, and really scary whiny sounds? So I bring to you the review for Mortal Kombat X for the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, and later at some point in the future, the Xbox 360 and PS3. So as always, graphics are up first, and I have to say the game certainly took the jump from the last gen to the next gen without tethers to the former. The game looks incredible, from almost hedonistic detail in the backgrounds where sweeping waves build up behind your fighters, to the little aspects of particular attention, such as snow falling from trees and light wisps when enemies decide it's time to end their argument by trying to punch their enemy into another dimension. Textures are incredibly high detail, with old and new characters alike outfitted in incredibly detailed clothing, most of which has some kind of physics applied. Now, up close, characters' faces have seen an increase in both realism, but also solid texture detail, exuding nuances that just were not there in any prior titles. And luckily, this leaves characters looking less like the late Joan Rivers with their faces stretched across the years of time like skin pantyhose. When you think about it, some games, a new character added to the roster has the potential to either be less or more detailed than past characters, or their entire makeup just doesn't really fit with the rest and leaves everyone wondering how the legless guy got invited to the hacky sack tournament. Spartan 458 and Dead or Alive, I'm looking at you guys. Here, however, the slick master of code at Neatherrealms have taken great pains that the only clumsiness experienced in the game is coming to grips with new movesets and not coming to grips with characters that look like they have no place in the current roster. Instead, you get the old and the new coming together perfectly, with characters like the crazy pants Devora that apparently took some fertility drugs and then slept near a beehive, or the strangely outfitted Tremor who brings easy comparisons to various Destiny character art, despite actually being in the past game as a boss. Mix those with characters that have woven in and out of various past games, like they sometimes mix the call for the most important tournament of this century, year, like Armac. Every single character looks like the same amount of time and attention has been put into them. This results in a seamless overall tapestry of fighters where nary a mistake has been made, alleviating any odd characters that look more like a create a character build from old Mortal Kombat games than true fighters. Additionally, the areas have just really been locked to a whole next level. Gone are the bombastic and ultimately amazing, fun areas of Injustice Gods Among Us, but they have been replaced by arenas where the real estate has been used masterfully. Even if the area is realistically open and empty looking, it won't take long for gamers to notice little subtle touches in the same way that games like Killer Instinct seem to have done so well recently. Additionally, there is a lot of interactivity in the backgrounds. Overall, the game also plays at a fantastic frame rate, though we will get to online later, and it seems fairly close to being locked at the numbers Neatherrealms wanted. I would say the graphics are excellent as a total package. Sound, music, and voice.
Kano.
Hello, my lovely.
You repulse us, hideous one.
Round one, fight.
Sound. Man, Mortal Kombat games have almost always had excellent sound, and deep within the recesses of years past, Netherrealms really seemed to understand that a punch needs to hit with some serious impact, otherwise it sounds like someone slapping you in the face with a fucking chopstick, which can look hilarious, but is not really scary. Here, thunderous punches roar, fireballs crackle and slam into the faces of waiting recipients, ice cracks and creaks as it freezes the bodies of enemies, and weapons slice and slide into bodies with an excellent, almost ethereal sound quality to them. Additionally, Netherrealms went one farther with a good number of audio settings in their options, including levels of ambience, different home stereo combinations, and a good number of sliders to adjust sound effects. For those folks who enjoy a good layered tonal experience, this is actually going to be right up your alley. I was super stoked to see that. Music. You know, I've always had a love-hate with Mortal Kombat music. Most of the times, the themes fit, but rarely does MK music go out of its way to bring atmosphere and emotion to a scene, and instead it quickly and usually becomes another layer of the experience and then is easily lost. And sadly, the same occurs here, with no music achieving anything other than an "oh wait, something's playing" impact to it, utterly forgettable and ultimately missable. I find this disappointing when music has become such a staple in games now. Ultimately, just really disappointing, really blah music. Not bad, just blah. Voice. And this is excellent. As always, these guys come through, from the momentary opening discussions between fighters that often change, to the challenges elicited during combat, to the groans, roars, and screams of everyone on the wrong end of a combo. The voices are just excellent. Less talking than Gods Among Us, but whether in cutscenes or in battles themselves, there's always something going on, and it's mostly of excellent quality, though there's a couple characters in the story mode that I could probably do without. Gameplay. Past Mortal Kombat games have had some questionable gameplay from time to time, and that's like saying people were surprisingly good at working in teams in ancient history, not realizing that's because slavery. Everyone is on one team or the other. Complete lack of observance from some notwithstanding, there is a tangible attempt here at repairing some of the past issues that have cropped up in MK games. The game has always been about putting two peeps in an arena and letting them duke it out without much fanfare. Unlock some other kinds of game modes like tag teams or triple fighter matches and so forth. You know, Mortal Kombat X drives home the artistry of mano-a-mano fighting. Just like two wet cats in a burlap bag, the fighters tear into one another until the timer runs out or someone isn't on this plane of existence anymore. What's nice here is, of course, Mortal Kombat's kept the multiplayer in, added faction battles mode where you sort of pick one of 5 factions and then every fight you have gains points for that particular faction, as well as the typical practice 2-player couch fighting and the crypt. Gone are the days when every Mortal Kombat game had a various laundry list of unique mini-games that came along with it, like Combat Puzzle Fighter or Combat Quest. Instead, it's all variations of the same thing, allowing for an easier translation between game modes and keeping the entire experience fairly contained. But that's really not to say it's lacking in any way, because it's not. The game has a wickedly large list of fighters available that only grows with special unlocks. Unlike most MK games, unlocks can occur in the game from stuff you do or within the Mortal Kombat crypt, a place where for some reason you run around buying the headstones of dead people and getting rewarded for it. Where I come from, that carries a penalty of 2 to 10 years. Fighting itself is once again filled with bombastic arrays of fighters, performing everything from brutalities or simple fatalities to more complex and rewarding fatalities. The nice thing is many special moves can be performed during the middle of a battle, and though it may not kill the other fighter, it's always fun to question how another dude's still swinging fists when you're pretty sure you just broke a spine. Frankly, if we ever meet an alien race, these are the bastards we need to be sending. Can you imagine that? "We have come to rape your planet of water and life." Kano shows up, "Oh no you haven't," and then laser beams a little dude right in the face. "Welcome to Border Town, bitches." Additionally, every fighter can choose 1 to 3 styles when entering the fight, with each style not only offering a unique set of moves, but also dramatically impacting the overall usability of the character and their relationships with the player. I won't go so far as to say the game adjusts completely, like 2 styles make a separate fight, but the styles do make one fighter seem fairly different, with some jaw-droppingly large and really unique differences, and it makes the roster feel even larger than it does originally. Since the game is almost stock full of brutal moves of all kind, it's going to be ages where people can get through all the different characters, styles, and moves and solidify their picks to just one. The roster really does elicit feelings of kid-like joy, seeing the roster filled out with all manner of men and women coming from abusive homes and relationships, because hitting is love. Now, while fighting, I admit there are some characters that apparently have some attacks with hitboxes built by graduates from the Helen Keller School of measuring incredibly fine distances. I mean, there are some characters with some fairly insane attacks. However, If they did have this issue, they usually only had one attack or maybe two that were like that, and many times that did not translate on the same character if a different style was chosen. Netcode. Remember when you were playing Injustice Among Us and the network worked just like a sleek car plowing through the turns on an Italian racecourse? Yeah, me neither. And this is either the same code or they decided to mimic it because April Fool's Day should be every day, and having an online option that's barely good enough to be called that is just funny to someone. Sometimes workable, but many times a travesty of lag and brutal missed attack windows. The netcode currently is a mystery because sometimes I think it just decides randomly whether to work or not. I'm shooting at about a 50% of the battles being good, with the other 50% running from laggy to Jesus, let's go make a sandwich by beginning to bake bread. Really slow. We'll see if that improves. Lastly, the story mode takes the tried and true Mortal Kombat approach, which is throw a ton of fighters into cutscenes and then inhabit the body of one of them like Whoopi Goldberg and play out a couple matches, then leap out and repeat again and again. The story isn't Shakespeare, nor do I find it equal to some of the Mortal Kombat titles in the past, but I found it interesting and I did get through it. Fun factor, despite the netcode apparently being cribbed from AOL's old servers, the rest of the game is A1 steak sauce blast, with an almost insanely deep roster of characters and styles to choose from that will seriously keep gamers busy for an incredible length of time. Whether a player is fighting in the arenas for faction points or taking on their buddy sitting next to them, the game has a very real calling to it and keeps you gaming and gives you that feeling where you need to play just one more time. More often than not, actually. In the end, I think what's really going to matter is if they get that netcode patched up, because if so, we'll be in business. If not, then you're going to have a game with an excellent amount of longevity and fun, with a ton of content and unlockable items, but also with the shelf life extraordinarily short compared to what it could be if the online code worked better than a John Hamm, Mickey Rourke mumble-off where communications pipe through their mumbling throats and isn't even understandable by almost anyone else on Earth. It's that bad at times. What does Mortal Kombat do right? Easy. Graphics, the styles, everybody's got 3 styles, it's freaking phenomenal, and the new characters are awesome. And lastly, of course, the sound. I love it. I think that they're always really good at that. What does Mortal Kombat do wrong? Plain and simple, the netcode. Got to make sure that that's up to snuff. There was a day one patch, but many of us already got it, and this is what we've got right now. They will probably improve it, but I'm going to say that it's probably the same netcode patch as Injustice had, and that's not the best. So I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never talk about it again rating scale. This is solidly a buy, yes, even if the netcode stays terrible. I did have a couple good games, like I said, about 50-50. I also had a good deal of infuriating shitstorms that made me want to swallow my own head. However, regardless of that, the game has more than enough to offer for the cost, and is an incredible testament to identifying the core strengths in a game and just pushing those. Is it perfect? No. But there are some amazing gameplay moments in this, and I really do not think people should miss it. So that's it for me. If you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. Please share, subscribe if you can. Otherwise, peace out.